to Access Store County, your window to arts and entertainment. I'm Pat Judy, and we're here at Camp David with the creator and owner, Dave Ellman.
Hi.
It's really great to see you again.
Great to see you, Pat.
And we're here today to talk about Camp David. What brought this all about? How it got started? What was your the reason behind the thought process that brought you into building this to what it is today?
Well, about 25 years ago, Mrs. Reinhardt, Lawrence and Glenna Reinhardt, the people who farmed this property, had a large dairy farm here. She agreed to accept my offer to purchase the property, and at that time, I should say before that, 7 years, it was used for housing for a 6-piece New Orleans Dixieland jazz band that was the house band of Powell's Country Inn, which is now Sonny's Restaurant in Fish Creek. And they needed a place where they could house 6 people for the summer. I was the bartender and manager of the bar for a time, and so they offered me a room to stay with the band and kind of be the house manager. And after the band no longer was employed at Powell's and Powell's was out of the restaurant business, Mrs. Reinhardt suggested that I should rent the farmhouse and sublease rooms out to college students because there was a great need for college students housing at the time, and still is. And I had also found it very difficult to find a place to live up here when I first opened up a little restaurant called Thumb Food at Thumb Fun Amusement Park just north of Fish Creek. So I accepted her suggestion and decided to rent the house out. I did that for 3 years and lived with the renters in the house myself. And then she accepted my offer to purchase the property. That was 25 years ago. So I decided that I would use the buildings on the property to develop housing for college students. In addition to the house, there was a great building that was 2 stories tall, used as a machine shed. It really didn't have very much in it besides electricity, and that all had to be torn out and rewired.
So that was not the farm hands, the dairy hands housing in the beginning.
No,
anyway.
No,
that was just a machine shed.
It was a machine shed basically, and it did have housing above it for migrant workers who worked in the orchards picking cherries and apples, and all of that had to be torn out and rebuilt. I did that in the winter months from January 15th to May 20th of the first year, and 2 of the girls showed up for rental about 5 days before I was finished. There was sawdust everywhere, the linoleum wasn't down on the floor, but they put up with it for 5 days and then it was done. And it's been running now for 25 years as Camp David. We house 17 students, college students, and people who are even finished with college, but just refuse to take that full-time job. Some of them work in the ski industry in Vail, Breckenridge, Colorado. Some of them go to Florida, and then they come here for the summertime. So they're not all college students, but that's exactly what it was designed to do, and that's what it's done pretty successfully for 25 years.
One thing that I noticed is that the young people that stay here, the college kids or whoever they are, they really have an active role in keeping this place the way it is, and they take pride in doing what they do.
I think part of that is due to the fact that they see me working on it every day. It's not like I'm an absentee landlord. I live on the property also. I live above the milk house in what is basically our entertainment center with a pool table, dartboard, ping pong table, beanbag toss, about a 200-book library, weightlifting area, card playing area, and
I tell people that because not only do you own the farm, but you own the ranch house next door. I know that was your final purchase when that all came about. And right. People say, you mean Dave doesn't live in the house next door? I said, no, Dave lives above the milk house.
Maybe someday when I retire, I'll live in that house.
Okay.
But I'm not ready to retire just yet. But when Mrs. Reinhardt passed, she had offered to give me first chance to purchase the property. And her son, Bill Reinhardt, honored that offer. And I was able to use this farm, which was then paid for, as equity to buy that house, and it's a rental home. It's called the Door Country Farmhouse. It has 4 bedrooms. It sleeps 10 people. It's in very nice condition. It was built in '67, and the original house was a little older, but it was really renovated in 1967. And I did serious work on it about 15 years ago, putting hardwood flooring in the dining room, putting Berber carpeting in the living room, and updating all the electrical and everything else in terms of wheelchair accessibility. So it's a great rental house, and it rents out very successfully in the summertime, and that's helping me pay the mortgage.
Okay, and you still have, we're going to have a mortgage burning party
We are
soon.
going to have one real soon. In about 5 years, it'll be paid for.
Well, that's going to be a day.
That's
Then-
going to be
Then
a
it's
party.
all yours.
Everything is mine then at that point. And maybe then I'll retire, but I doubt it. I just like the lifestyle the way it is. I think the kids wear me out here. There's 17 kids this summer, but they also, I think, keep me a little younger because they include me in all their activities, and it's not like I'm the evil landlord. It's like I'm one of them, and it really, really is a fun summer for all of us.
Now, you know, and speaking of you retiring, I worked for your father, and he didn't retire till the day he passed. I mean, that's how he retired. And I don't see you retiring any differently. There's something about the Ellmans that has, there's a drive there that just, they always find something else to do. They find something that needs done, and it gets done. Your brother Steve just does all the sound and all for all the concerts and everything that happened here in the course of the summer, which we'll talk about shortly. But you're always doing something, and you know, it's part of the ethic of Door County. I think nobody really retires up here. Everybody's always doing something. Your mother stays busy.
Yeah, she really does. She's the one that brought these flowers and brings wildflowers and makes a floral arrangement for the stage for every one of our concerts, which are called Fishstock.
Right.
And
Let's talk about how that got started. So we've got a history of why everything got started for and believe me, housing for college students and the Camp America foreign kids and everyone else is a big necessity up here. There just never is enough for the amount of kids that have to come here to work every summer. And that was you filled a big need at the time, and you still do. But so we've discussed that. Let's talk about how the idea for having entertainment in this barn and started, and the tremendous amount of work it took to turn this what you're seeing now into what you're seeing now. Because I know it was a dairy barn, so I can imagine what it was like when you got started.
well, it was completely filled with things that were kind of left behind at the time of sale. And it was a lot of lumber, a lot of things were in this lower area of the barn to my left here. And all of that had to be taken out, of course. And once I got the barn emptied, then I cut down the stanchions, which are between the cows when they're being milked. And I leveled the manger, and I filled in the rubble into the gutter so that the whole floor would be level or nearly level. Mm-hmm. And once I got the floor level and everything out of the building, then I spent an entire summer pressure washing this building. I think Pat Zock from Egg Harbor has a painting business there. Pat's Painting loaned me his pressure washer whenever he wasn't using it on a building. And it took me an entire summer, but inch by inch, I pressure washed every single spot in this barn and brought it back to the condition that it's in now. And some people think it's a new barn, but it's actually over 100 years old, but it has been worked on by me for an entire summer to make it look this way. And then we re-supported the hayloft because some of the posts were rusted out and not supporting anymore. We did it all with white cedar. We reinforced, we built a commercial staircase and another exit out the upstairs loft because there have to be opposing exits for fire purposes, fire protection. And there's a balcony behind the stage and a stairway to it, and all lighted exits, emergency lighting system. That was all installed. This took months to do. And finally, when we got the upstairs safe and legal to use, we could seat 150 people up there.
And that was the beginning of that's
That
where
was-
you had your first concerts.
That was the first concert. That was 15 years ago. And one of the first
Do you
concerts...
remember the first performers?
I really don't, but I know that almost everybody who performed on stage was from the American Folklore Theater. Because the reason I chose to have my concerts on Sunday night was because Sunday night is the only night of the week that the American Folklore Theater is closed during the summertime.
Right.
In the fall season, it's a little different, but in the summer, I never wanted to compete with them because Dave Alley of the American Folklore Theater helped me do work on this farm. He renovated one of the cabins, which he later lived in for several years until they bought their own farm. And this barn was used for their rehearsals for American Folklore Theater. It's still used by the Shakespeare Company that performs at Bjork Linden,
The Door
Door Shakespeare. Whenever it rains,
So American Folklore Theater, before they got the boat works, they were here.
they used my barn
Oh,
for their
okay.
rehearsals. They did all the rehearsals here. And so I was a personal friend of a lot of the people involved, and still am a very good friend of the main shakers and movers of the AFT. And for the first several years, 6 or 7 years at least, I couldn't afford to pay for anyone with any kind of widespread recognition as far as a stage name is concerned. But the American Folklore Theater had some very talented people, thanks to Doc Heidi, Jeff Herbst, and of course Fred Alley.
Fred Alley.
And he was often here performing for me for very little, because we only paid what the door brought in. And at that time, it was only $5. And of course, I lost money for about 7 or 8 years, even though we increased it to 10. After 7 years, it became so popular that we had to actually move it down to this level. And so we built the stage behind us, and we now seat 300 people in the lower part of the barn. We seat an additional 300 people outside of the barn. We have a Mitsubishi projector that projects a 10 by 10 foot image on the outside of the barn, and we have external speakers that are computer tied to the ones inside. So the people outside hear exactly what the people inside are hearing. So it just grew, and over the years, it's become very popular, and now it's kind of a local tradition, especially over Labor Day weekend.
That's the big show.
Yeah, we just finished one. We had.
And Eric Lewis has done it. This was his 12th season,
It was Eric's 12th year.
and he really did it. He really did it upright this year.
Unbelievable.
All that he brought up, what I like to call a Memphis review. I mean, it was all his Memphis buddies that he's been. You know, it's kind of funny. I know I've got some of that history, and I know that we can kind of thank Karen Mall for introducing Eric to Door County.
Yep, that's
And
true.
then everybody Eric knew that you got to come up here and see this. He'd tell him, because you can't believe it. And then he got Andy Ratliff to come up, and then he got Jimmy Davis to come up, and then he got Tommy Burrows to come up. And they're all saying, what do I want to go up there with those Yankees for? And once they get up here, they fall in love with it. Jimmy Davis has got a permanent little nest over here that's just for him.
We built a little fire circle and a little campsite
Because
in the woodlot.
he lives that way. He camps wherever he goes.
Exactly.
He camps and he sleeps on top of his truck sometimes.
He camps out and he plays his gig and goes to bed that night in his tent, gets up in the morning, packs his tent and all of his camping gear, and goes to the next gig.
And
He
it's
really
just,
does.
but they all can't wait to get back and perform in Door County.
Well, they've really become good friends, and I've taken most of, not all of them, sailing. I've got a little 25-foot sloop I keep on a mooring in Fish Creek called the Rock and Roll, as luck would have it. And they just love sailing, they love being here, and there's something special about Door County that I recognized when I first moved up here in 1970 to build that little restaurant at Thumb Fun, that you can't find any place else in the state, or the United States for that matter. This place is very unique and extremely valuable in terms of the peace of mind that you feel when you're here. The fact that I never take my keys out of my car all summer. I couldn't even find my house key for the first 5 years I lived here because I didn't really ever lock the door.
Yeah, my mother was the same way, Ann Thorpe. When she had had her stroke and realized she couldn't drive anymore, she gave her car to my late wife, Sue. And we had to come up here and pick it up, and I said, Mom, where are the keys? She said, you know where they are. 5 months had gone by since she'd been in the nursing home. We drove up, the keys were in the ignition,
Yeah,
in the driveway, the house that never had a key,
right.
ever.
That's what I mean. That's what Door
And
County's all
that's
about.
it. That's what it's all about, and that's why, I think that's one of the many reasons that the Memphis boys just cannot get over this. Plus, Tommy Burrows always says that it's the response and the warmth and the feeling of affection that they feel coming to them from the audience that they don't feel anywhere else, even in Memphis.
That's true.
And that's really something. And you are a big part of generating that that feeling because of what you do here. You know, and you run, how many concerts a week do you run here?
Just one, every Sunday at 7.
But I mean, yeah, but how
There are
many through the,
10,
do you do a 10
a
concert
total
series?
of 10, right.
Starting on the, like,
4th of July weekend.
for the
and it
Saturday of
ends-
the 4th of July, and it's usually, Unity's done that for the last
Yeah,
few years, haven't they?
That's a throwback from when I used to have an end of the summer Camp David reunion party. It was
That I have
called,
been to many of.
there were 10, we did that for 10 years. And I did a countdown on the 7th year and said there are only going to be 2 more years, then there are only going to be 1 more year. This is the last year, just to get everybody used to the fact that it's not going to happen at the last weekend in August. After 10 years, it became so large, there would be 1,500 people here for that concert. And it was too tough to manage. I was afraid of somebody getting hurt or injured, or somebody going home and getting hurt or injured. So I decided that what I needed to do is I needed to have more events, but have them smaller. So what my real goal is to fill this area. It's
How many
300.
You can put 300 people just in where we're
Just
sitting
where
right
we're
now.
sitting.
Okay.
And if I have a larger concert, which is the case for Labor Day, I do have additional outside seating, and I do have the projector and outside seating for anyone who wants to be under the stars. And believe it or not, in 15 years of doing Fishstock, that's 10 concerts a year.
It's 100.
Little quick
that's
math, it's 150 concerts.
150 concerts.
We have never been rained out
that, you
in
know,
150 performances.
that's absolutely incredible.
It's just unreal. I keep expecting it to happen, but it just never does. There was rain on Friday. There was rain and heavy wind on Saturday. It was perfect on Sunday.
It couldn't have been better.
Monday, it was windy and rainy. Tuesday, it was windy and rainy. The only window we had for a week was Sunday.
It was. And I was here, I participated, I was in the audience. And one of the many improvements, you're constantly improving this place. And the biggest improvement you've done to date is behind us, looking to the front of house. You've taken all of the sound and light controls and put them up above. They used to be down just at the back actually at the front of house or back of the barn there. And they really obstructed the view coming in from
Yes, they did.
outside and took up about probably 40 seats just because of where
Exactly.
they sat.
Exactly.
Now you've got a balcony up there where everything is controlled. Sound, lights, follow spot, everything is done from up there. And
All the filming, the recording.
that's right.
It's all done from there.
Laddie was there, and
Well, that moved everything up. All the wiring, all the cables, which are really, really important to keep out of anybody's reach or anybody's tripping over them or anything. And they all run from all the main sources of power and all the amps right up to the catwalk that's in back of the barn right now.
I remember
Works great.
how many attempts it took the power company to get you good power.
It was amazing. We had to really scramble a few times, especially when we kept adding units and adding systems, and the electrical just wasn't set up for it.
What have you got in here now? Like 400 amp service or something? It's huge.
It's about 400 amps, and we just got a new dimmer pack and a new light board 3 years ago for Stuart
I mean,
Dawson,
there's got to be at least
our wizard.
close to 100 lights in here.
Yeah, there are actually 64 light units, not counting the spots, follow lights, and not counting the ones up above in the hayloft.
That's right. You have
has its own lighting.
Yeah, and the hayloft is still used for entertainment, and it's all self-contained.
Right.
Has its own lighting controls and its own sound system.
Right.
Which your brother Steve designed, and I know he took me on a tour the other day. He showed me all the new speaker systems and that's the thing that I think I appreciate as a performer more than anything is the fact that you never sit still. You always make it better, and Steve's just a stickler for that. You keep the place looking like it should, and he keeps it sounding like it should.
Well, these plush seats that we're sitting in
Yes.
right now come from Bill Wettig and his wife, Lynn Krause. They own the Apple Creek Hotel, and they had one of these chairs in every room, but they had rollers on them. And the rollers were getting a little older, and he wanted to change and upgrade, and he asked me if I needed chairs. So I thought, well, if I take the rollers off these chairs, they're gonna sit just about 3 or 4 inches lower, and that'll be low enough for the people behind them to see the stage perfectly. So now we have preferred seating that is mighty comfortable.
Let's talk about that for a minute. there's been an evolution in the way that you control the seating. Like you said, people can access this property from numerous places, and but they don't. And this year, was this the first year you went to the preferred seating?
Yes, yeah, it's something that the fellow that designed my website, fishstockmusic.com, suggested that we do a preferred seating situation because we don't accept credit cards. So what happened is that he added that to our website, and we got many calls about it. And when they called on my personal phone number, I actually answered every single phone call. And when they called, I let them know all they had to do is spell out their last name and tell me the number of people in their party and leave a return phone number so that in case there was a problem, I could call them. So the first few concerts, we would have maybe 10 or 15 preferred seat calls. It got bigger and bigger as the summer went on because more and more people found out about it. The final concert, which was this last Sunday, the entire lower floor here, almost 300 seats, it was 227 preferred seats that I personally put names on every chair. So when they came and bought their tickets, they came in, found their seat, and they could go right back out and continue their great tailgate party in my parking lot.
And I'll tell you, the audience here is hip, because I know just a few years ago, the band on the Labor Day concert started adding a short third set for your kids to dance and party and have a good time. So they would clear all the chairs out of here, and they'd have a barn dance for that last set. Well, the last couple of years, when it came time to do the third set, there's 300 people sitting here.
Still sitting.
So the kids just clear out the back, outside, and then they dance and party out there.
Exactly.
That's how hip the audience has gotten.
Yeah. We have a great, great audience, very appreciative, very loyal fans, in spite of a lot of competition in the county with live entertainment. And it's just a wonderful situation to see those faces at almost every concert.
Tell me the website is your website.
Fishstock, one word, music.com.
All one word, Fishstock Music.
Fishstock, and then music, a separate word.
Okay, is there a
.com.
space?
There's a space.
Fishstock space music.com.
Music.com.
Okay, and that has all the information, phone numbers, how to get
All
hold
the
of
concerts, telephone number. Also, all my posters, which I put up on Memorial Day weekend for the season, have my telephone number on them also, as well as every single concert.
Now, you've got this really fancy Hawaiian shirt on. You want to tell people where you're headed when you close this place down?
For the last 5 winters, I've been lucky enough to work as a bartender at the Lahaina Yacht Club on Maui. I went there about 6 years ago, learned how to surf. Then I got the job at the yacht club after working at Longy's, a very exclusive restaurant there. I was a day bartender, and they found out about me at the yacht club, and I've been there ever since. They welcomed me back after being absent for 6 months.
I worry that someday we won't get you back.
I wouldn't spend any place else in the world than in Door County for spring, summer, and fall. Just wanted to add before we're finished that the real reason why there is music in my barn, and especially in all of my family's life, is because my father, Walter Ellman, was a very, very fine musician and always had his own group. And all my life, I can remember him coming home from gigs with some balloons in his bass drum or some Kit Kat bars that had to be split 5 ways between the 5 kids that were already born at that time. And every one of the kids in our family learned how to play an instrument. Mine was the saxophone, and I started with a sax, ended up with a clarinet. I should have stayed with the sax. But my father is really the inspiration behind any music that's produced in my barn in my life.
Your father was my first employer when I moved here 25 years ago.
Was that when you had the hillside?
No, that's when I worked for him at the Peninsula Golf Course.
At the golf course, yep, that's right.
I was the first outside starter, and he hired me to do that. That was the summer of '87.
That's right. Do you know how we got that job? All the people that were involved in forming the Peninsula Golf Association asked the most successful restaurateur at that time in Door County, Al Johnson, who they should get to manage the golf course now that they had control of it.
Unanimously, he said, Wally Ellman.
Wally Ellman is your man. And he was managing the school lunch program and teaching occasional music classes with Joel Blahnik. and he accepted the position, and that's what he did until he did retire.
And he was a wonderful man, and he was a very, very fair person to work for, and he was a great drummer and a great singer. I always enjoyed, I played at Powell's with Paul Sawinski when I first moved up here, and Wally would come and sit in and sing, and it was always a joy to hear him.
Yep. Well, the group from Powell's actually had a reunion here in Door County and played up in the hayloft. And my father was sitting out on the balcony. He wasn't in very good health at that time. And I talked the guys into coaxing him to come out on stage. That was the final concert that he played. It was up in my hayloft.
Right as it should be.
And Emmett Johns drew a sketch of him playing drums that night, which I framed and still have it above my desk.
Oh, that is so cool. I miss him. I miss him a lot. He was a great man. And this is the culmination of many, many years of hard work, and I wish you continued success, and I hope to be a part of this for as long as you continue to do it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
You're mighty welcome.
And I'm Pat Judy for Sevastopol TV, your video voice of Door County. Good night.
If you ever feel lonesome and you're down in San Antonio, beg, steal, or borrow 2 nickels or a dime, call me on phone. I'll meet you at Alamo Mission so you can see our prayers. The Holy Ghost and the Mother Mary will meet us as we kneel there in the moonlight, in the midnight, in the moonlight, midnight moonlight, in the moonlight, midnight, in the moonlight, midnight moonlight. If you ever feel weary and you haven't got a prayer, no one's for tomorrow or the setting of the sun. Ocean is howling for the things that might have been. And the first good morning sunrise will be the brightest that you'll ever see. In the moonlight, in the midnight, in the moonlight, midnight moonlight, in the moonlight, in the midnight, in the moonlight, midnight moonlight. beg, steal, or borrow 2 nickels or a dime. Call me on the phone. I'll meet you at Alamo Mission. We can say our prayers. Holy Ghost and the Mother Mary meet us as we kneel there in the moonlight, in the midnight, in the moonlight, midnight moonlight, in the moonlight, in the midnight, in the moonlight, midnight moonlight, oh, in the moonlight, in the midnight, in the moonlight, midnight moonlight, in the moonlight, midnight, moonlight, midnight moonlight. T-Bone.